drawing parallels to where we are today. Apparently, we've already successfully cloned sheep from 1997. And I know that Peter Diamandis or different places that I've heard talks about this, and we started growing human organs in pigs. I just did a Google on human organs pigs, and it says, meet the pigs that could solve the human organ transplant. Article number 2, transplanting organ from pigs to humans. And then the third article, meet the animal scientists trying to grow human organs in pigs. So these are not so distant to what we are doing right now. As far as I know from research and getting it from quite a few different sources, especially from the channeling stuff, the human cloning yourself or cloning other humans, that art has pretty much been perfected quite a few years ago. It's just been hidden from us. We don't know of it. It wouldn't surprise us if we can clone organs and grow organs. Why can't we clone humans? So when we start to mingle and imagine that we're growing organ within a pig and putting that inside of a human, but based on the past of what they said, potentially that could activate certain disease that is just nowhere before. Because some people say that COVID started from eating wild animals and stuff or whatever. And that's just from eating. Imagine putting a whole organ inside. And once you start this disease, who's to say that we can actually tame it or control it? And it wouldn't just eradicate the whole species. So there's other talks that monkey cloning has been successful as well, other research projects. So it's something that is, I guess the channeling work is seeing that we are potentially, the technology is becoming quite advanced and we're potentially going down the same path. And one thing I think that Greg Braden or someone that talks about that I really find my belief like resonating is that why don't we have more advanced technology right now? Like some people talks about that since the invention of the smartphone, like nothing has really been that advanced in the last 10 years. But at the same time, if we had more advanced technology, but our consciousness haven't caught up, we will be misusing the technology. And imagine that just like a nuclear bomb as an example, nuclear power could be a good thing, but it can also be turned into a negative thing. It could blow up the world and bring upon the destruction of the human species like faster than ever before. And even the human organ growing in pigs, that could bring up the human destruction like faster than ever before. So just like a knife, you can use it for constructive purposes or you can use it for destructive purposes. Free energy, that's been speculation like Nikola Tesla has invented this like 50, 60, 80 years ago. But again, the same free energy, I'm sure it could be used for negative purpose, destructive purposes. So what do I get from all this? What actually was one of the key in destroying Atlantis is that once they got bored with experimenting with, not bored, but one of the many different things that they were experimenting on, they talked about they could actually harvest the energy from the sun, they could harvest the energy from the moon, they could harvest energy from the stars as well, and they could telepathically communicate with beings in other planets that they in turn also gave them information and insights on how to further their advancement in technologies and other things. So eventually, why not we try to use our telepathic power to somehow harness the power from the core of the earth, from the molten core? The sun should have provided more than sufficient power. It's not like it's running out, but it's like one of the things that you get bored, and I don't blame them. Like, so take what you just about to hear with a grain of innocence about it. They said, well, why not try to tap power from molten core? And eventually they created the 2 plates on Earth, which Atlantis was sitting on, to shift in a big way. Imagine a volcanic eruption times 1,000,000. That's how much power that erupted and basically sunk Atlantis. It created earthshake, and it just started from this small group that just wanted more power, not just literally power, but how do I harness our power to be more powerful being? We don't need the sun, we can get other source. So eventually like Atlantis sank, and certain group that wasn't supportive of what they were doing knew that what was coming can foresee the future, and they started escape it to Peru, to Egypt on hovercraft. And so that's kind of the story of how Atlantis came down. And that's what really captivated me. Because before I went into these stories, I always saw that Atlantis is almost like the pinnacle of where we want to get to. Advanced technology, highly psychic powers of being able to communicate telepathically, moving object, and obviously many other good things, being able to heal yourself. And they didn't need TV, they didn't need a lot of the technology because they knew how to harness the human potential. I wasn't aware of the darker side, that even though we could be quite advanced, we could still be quite corrupted in our actions. It reminded me that awakening, like the consciousness growth, but there's almost like a y-axis and the x-axis, different axes. One of it, you grow your consciousness, but it doesn't mean that you would be more conscious as a collective towards things around. During the Judeo-Christian times, the Buddhism times, the Islamic times, they all had slaves. So why did they feel that slave was appropriate, even though we got people that the mystics was quite evolved in the thinking? Because back then, at those times, those were the appropriate action. So not only are the people needed to grow, we needed to grow in the maturity. Even in recent times, many people follow from the teachings and the miracles, but then after a while you hear of the sex scandal and different things with these people as well, because they may have grown up a lot in height, but in terms of the maturity, they haven't matured. So that's two different styles of growth. Just because someone is so zen in the mystics and the wisdom they give out does not automatically mean that they are actually living it. They have that maturity level of older soul or more evolved soul. So the Atlantean stage, I guess that's kind of what taught me that ultimately technology can be great in advancing humanity. But what is more important is continually growing our consciousness. And part of that consciousness is understanding and remembering that we all came as one. We are oneness. We all came from unity. Rather than seeing the differences in each one of us, is to see the similarity. Even as a stardust, even as they call it, cosmic consciousness, or whatever you like to call it, we come from the same source. And treat other across various religion, Buddhism, Catholic, Hinduism, Taoism, they all talks about the same thing, like treat others like how you would be treated. They all say it slightly differently, but every single one of them say the same line. Treat others how you would like to be treated. So after hearing this, I'm just more aware. When I look at even insects, do I treat them as a lower being? It gave me at least a second thoughts on how it should be dealt with. So I'm not exactly a saint in this area. I'm not carrying the ants on my back or my hand to say like, here you go, like move somewhere else, because there's just so many of them. And it's in the kitchen area. They're just walking over the places we need to clean. And I guess one of the things that made me more at peace is that when I once shared with my friend about me feeling bad about killing the slugs that's on vegetables and stuff, he said, who says killing is bad? Maybe it's our own human perception that it's bad. Because from a spiritual level, is that they don't die. What if it's the time to go? What if I'm freeing them of this lifetime? So I'm not trying to put too much meaning, but I know that there's so much more to learn. And at the end of the day, I'm still living in a human body that when I'm walking on the grass, I could be stepping on an insect that could be killing them. Who knows? And I don't know how to float yet or levitate yet. So we do have our human challenges. And yeah, Atlantis. Interesting, eh?